Hello, and welcome to Sharp Love Story. Here we share powerful stories of love and the emotional journeys that lead to healing. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Let's explore the beauty and strength of human emotions together. After Aaron got engaged, I used travel as an excuse to submit my resignation to him. He raised an eyebrow and chuckled. "Have fun and come back when you're done." I greedily gazed into his eyes and softly murmured, "Okay." Little did he know, I wasn't coming back. At the moment of his engagement, my life had a countdown initiated by the system. Chapter 1. At a high-class gathering, Aaron draped his arm around my shoulder and earnestly introduced, "This is my sister. She wants to explore the world. Please take care of her." The glass lamps above cast a pure light, illuminating Aaron's defined profile. As a friend, he was exceptionally kind. Yet I was despicable and deceitful. Aaron would never know that the real reason I resigned was because I fell in love with him. Chapter 2. When the system brought me to this world, Aaron was still the unacknowledged, illegitimate child of the Reynolds family. Exiled from the center of power, managing the peripheral industries of the Reynolds family. I applied to be his secretary. On my first day, Aaron was smoking a cigarette, his polished shoes casually propped on the desk. "Find another job. There's no future with me." I bent down, picked up the files Aaron had thrown on the floor, and neatly stacked them on the desk. "Success is carved out by people." I whispered to him, "Aaron, you will definitely become someone great in the future." Aaron paused slightly, his dark eyes staring at me for a long time without a word. As I left, through the frosted glass, I watched Aaron leaning back in his chair. He was tilting his head back, staring blankly at the ceiling, his eyes distinct in black and white, hinting at a touch of moisture. That mix of youthful confusion and helplessness I had remembered for 10 years, from first sight to now. Chapter 3. At Aaron's engagement ceremony, he seated me at the head table. I was too close to the bride, her wedding gown swishing past me, even revealing the subtle glow of her pigeon egg-sized diamond ring on her hand. Aaron and the bride were in a business union, devoid of any emotions. Placing me at the head table signified his acknowledgement of my status, just as he introduced me to everyone at the high-class gathering. "This is my sister. Please take good care of her." In his heart, there was always a place for me, just not one of love. The system said that if Aaron didn't marry me, I would be erased. "Go and ask him, he will agree." I smiled faintly. Whether he loves me or not, marries me or not, it's his choice. 10 years by his side doesn't mean he has to give me marriage. I don't like this kind of I accompany him, so he must fall in love with me. Moral blackmail. The system sighed, and a cold mechanical voice sounded. Bright red, vivid numbers danced before my pupils. My life. Only 30 days left. Chapter 4. I used travel as an excuse to submit my resignation to Aaron. He held the resignation letter, flipping it back and forth, then pressed his brow and spoke in a low voice. "No need to resign. I'll give you a vacation. Have fun and come back when you're done." I nodded slightly. Perhaps my face was too pale, so pale that even Aaron noticed something was wrong. His tone softened a bit. "You've worked hard these years, take a good rest. The company will always have a place for you." I smiled and replied, "Okay." Aaron walked over, raised his hand to touch my face, sighed. "You've lost weight again." His voice softened. "When you're alone, remember to eat more." I softly replied, "Yes." Chapter 5. On the train, the system asked me, "Why do you think Aaron doesn't like you? He has clearly crossed the line in many ways with you." "It doesn't matter." I coughed, covering my mouth, wiping away the blood on my palm with a tissue. Looking out the window, with starlight in my eyes. "I'm going to Dolly. I heard it's beautiful there, with lots of roses." Once, Aaron and I were rejected by business partners during a sales run. That night, we huddled under a bridge, embracing each other for warmth, shivering from the cold. Aaron's lips were close to mine. Gritting his teeth, he told me, "Camille, when I become successful in the future, I will treat you well. You've been with me through thick and thin. We'll go wherever we want." The smile on my face gradually disappeared. I swallowed the bitterness in my mouth, feeling a bit regretful. I love roses so much, but in the end, I'm dying and I've never received a red rose. I curled up, red-eyed, thinking, when I get to Dolly, I'll buy myself a big bucket of roses. The brightest and most vibrant kind. Seeing them would uplift my mood. I slowly closed my eyes. Chapter 6. Arriving in Dolly, as soon as I stepped out of the train station, I saw a shy young man in a crumpled suit, holding a sign waiting for me. I was stunned for a moment, then walked over. He is Aaron's assistant to the supplier in Dolly. Aaron specifically instructed to take good care of you. Since the cooperation between Aaron and Dolly is not very close, it must have taken a lot of effort to arrange. I quietly looked at him for a few seconds, politely declined. No need. I want to wander around by myself. Camille, you don't need to tell Aaron. I smiled at him. Just say I'm fine, having a great time. Everything's okay in the final month. I didn't want to have any more entanglements with him. Chapter 7. I found a bar to stay in Dolly. Having been obedient for 2 lifetimes, even at the end of my life, I wanted to taste the feeling of living recklessly. During the day when the bar was quiet, I walked around the small town with an umbrella, picked a photo studio, and wanted to take a final photo of myself. Hair down, wearing lipstick, letting the retoucher make me look whiter and prettier, smiling gently with a slight curve at the corner of my lips, facing forward. Black and white photo, framed, held close to my chest. I staggered out under the photographer's puzzled gaze. Before the accident, I died suddenly, a speeding car taking away all my remaining days. Being able to foresee my own death now, feeling prepared in advance, was quite strange. At night, swaying in the scent of cheap cocktails in the bar, dancing to lively music, arms touching the bodies of the opposite sex, or being touched by them, I turned my head, gave him a slight smile, then continued to revel, oblivious to life and death. During this month, I did everything I had wanted to do, but had been restrained from doing before. I did it, got tired of it. Finally, I lay back in a rocking chair, looking at the Tsongshan Mountains and Arai Lake, waiting for my own death. Chapter 8. Aaron called me in the meantime. He asked me how my trip was in a gentle tone. Before I could speak, a coquettish voice came from the phone. You don't even answer my calls, his fiancée. The blood in my body suddenly cooled. I heard Aaron's helpless coaxing and the girl's dissatisfied murmurs. The blood warmed up again, my heartbeat calmed down, and I smiled. It's fine. Aaron hung up the phone in a hurry. I held the phone, looking blankly ahead at the green waves. Before the engagement, Aaron had not known his fiancée. It had only been a little over half a month. I had heard that people destined to fall in love would do so at first sight, confirm the relationship in 3 days, and be inseparable within a week. I used to not believe that. It seems that I can't refute it now. Chapter 9. My body was getting worse and worse, almost feeling the passing of life, clearly. Blood flowed beneath the skin, bone-chilling cold, every cell screaming in pain. 50 meters ahead of the bar, there was a stone bridge with red roses planted along the sides, emitting a fragrant floral scent in the soft wind of Dolly. Beneath the bridge, a swift river flowed, enveloped in dried petals, streaming towards an unknown abyss. This was the death place I chose for myself. I didn't want to die in a hospital, filled with tubes, lying alone on a white hospital bed, waiting for death. Chapter 10. One day, I received a gift from Aaron. He sent me beautifully packaged wedding candies and a bright red invitation card with him and his bride on it. The purple embossed box was filled with dark chocolates. I wiped away the blood from the corner of my mouth, tore open the bag, and with the taste of the unfinished blood, I put the chocolate in my mouth. Bitter, yet rich. The first time I worked overtime with Aaron, I had low blood sugar, and he took out a bunch of brightly packaged candies from the drawer. Eat a few, otherwise your body won't hold up. I shook my head and softly said, I'm on a diet. I was used to not eating sweets. Aaron's dark eyes stared at me for a moment, then he pulled his lips and commented, fussy. A few days later, He had a friend bring back dark chocolates from abroad and push them in front of me. Keep this with you, it helps with dieting. Don't starve yourself, it's not good for your body. The purple embossed packaging reflected Aaron's serious and focused face. That was the most memorable scene for me in the past 10 years. Finally, in this world, I found the existence of me. Someone cared about me. There were joys and sorrows. I continued to be a person, living truthfully in this world, not a puppet controlled by fate, inevitably heading towards a predetermined ending. Chapter 11. 8 days until the countdown to death. I received a call from Aaron's assistant, Wayne, the young man who had been with Aaron for 7 years, his tone polite and respectful. Camille, when will you be back? Some work needs to be arranged as soon as possible. I grabbed a handful of Dolly's soil, casually threw it into the sky, and replied nonchalantly. Let's not have me come back to arrange it. Find someone to take my place. Camille, Wayne's tone was hesitant. He cautiously asked, are you not planning to come back? I told him, don't tell Aaron for now. I pursed my lips. Wayne is an assistant I personally trained, followed Aaron for 7 years, and also accompanied me for 7 years. I want him to handle my affairs for me. When the words were on the tip of my tongue, I didn't know how to say it. In the end, I could only sigh. In a week, I will send you an email. Follow the instructions in the email. I gently told him, Wayne, you must work hard in the future. If you get married, don't forget. Burn some paper money to tell me. I realized it wasn't appropriate to say that, stopped in time, and smiled apologetically at him. Just telling him, you must work hard in the future, Wayne. Chapter 12. Perhaps because I was close to death, these past few days, I've always dreamt of past events, dreaming of my mother. Her Cheongsam outlined her graceful figure, her skin soft and fair, like the most beautiful dancer in the palace. Contrasted with her lying on her deathbed, so thin that only a skeleton remained, looking as dry as kindling. The difference was stark. The man she had admired all her life, the man who made her willingly be the other woman, didn't show up by her bedside in the end. Even after countless phone calls, hoarse from crying, begging him to come see her for a moment, he only coldly said, you deserve to die, go die with your daughter, living will only bring harm to others anyway. When he said these words, I was sitting by the bed, peeling an apple. The fruit knife slipped, cutting into the translucent skin of my fingertip. Fresh blood flowed out, and I wiped it away expressionlessly. She cried hysterically, and I watched quietly for a while, finding it quite ridiculous. I went downstairs to buy apples again. Just as I stepped onto the street, the red light turned on, and a drunk truck driver unconsciously stepped on the gas. In the shattered glass, my flying body and terrified face were reflected. In the last instant before death, the woman was on my mind. Even I didn't want her anymore. How would she live? Chapter 13. 3 days left until the countdown to death. Perhaps it was a flicker of life. Suddenly, I had strength wrapped in a long scarf, hair hastily tied up, applied lipstick and blush, aimlessly strolling on the cobblestone road. The sugar figurines, made by the roadside stall owner, caught the eyes of a little girl who looked at them enviously, tugging at her mother's sleeve. Her mother, with a weary face, bent down in tears. We need to save money for your father's treatment, darling. I approached and bought a panda-shaped sugar figurine, handing it to the little girl. She timidly looked up with her fair face and called me a sister. The woman thanked me in a fluster. I watched them leave. Feeling tired from the walk, I wanted to go back. He just turned around, and on the steps of the town hall, I saw the face I absolutely didn't want to see at this moment. Wayne. Chapter 14. He saw me and ran over excitedly. Camille, Aaron is inside. Let me take you in. I interrupted him. Why did you come here? There's a forum here, and Aaron was invited to attend. Wayne explained and asked me, Camille, where do you live? I checked all the accommodation records in town and couldn't find you. The bar wasn't considered an official residence, and I forgot if I had registered anywhere. I tightened the shawl around me and slowly told him, Wayne, could you please not tell anyone about me being here? Aaron's calm voice interjected. I immediately shut up. Chapter 15. It seemed that as soon as I saw Aaron, my aging organs began to warm up. My blood regained its warmth, flowing through my veins, pulsating with each beat of my heart. I stood still, looking up at him quietly. After a month apart, he hadn't changed much, dressed sharply, shiny shoes, a neatly tied tie on his chest, still looking bright and spirited. He looked at me, furrowing his brows. "Why have you lost so much weight? Not eating properly?" I shook my head. "Maybe it's the change in environment. Haven't you gone to the hospital?" "No need. I'm fine." He raised his hand to touch my head, but I dodged it with a turn of my head. His arm paused for a moment before casually retracting. He smiled. "When are you planning to go back?" "In a couple of days." I lowered my head. "I quite like it here. Want to play a few more days?" He nodded slightly. "Taking some time off is good. Relax properly." He thought of something, a softness flashing in his eyes. "When we return, my wife and I will treat you to dinner." On the streets of Dali, the wind carried the scent of flowers. I easily sniffed out the fragrance of roses. I liked roses because that woman liked them. At her most charming, she would twist her waist and tuck a bright red rose into her hair. Also because that year, when Aaron first returned to the Reynolds family, he faced a group of silent but angry gazes and boldly broke off the Carolina red rose his eldest sister had nurtured in a pot. He leaned against the table, smiling, and waved at me. "Camille, come here." Then he pinned the red rose in my hair. Openly, warmly, in front of all the Reynolds family, he showed his favoritism towards me. It was at that moment that I started to fantasize. Could I really marry him and stay by his side forever? I smiled, tightened the shawl around me, and softly asked, "And you, how long will you stay here?" 3 days. Aaron raised his hand, ignoring my resistance, touched my forehead, feeling the cold chill, his brows furrowed. "Are you really okay? Why are you so cold?" I shook my head. Aaron stared at me for a moment, his tone getting serious. "When we return to B-City, I'll have someone arrange a full-body checkup for you." I didn't refuse. Chapter 16. Aaron came over, picked me up horizontally, and placed me on a stone pedestal to sit. "Rest for a while first, then take me for a walk around here." "How about that? What's your favorite place in Dali?" "Show me." Just as my scattered mind was about to come up with an excuse to leave, Aaron's words, filled with a smile, interrupted me, plunging me back into torment. I pushed him away in a panic, stood up wrapped in the shawl, my pale, almost transparent skin directly facing the sunlight. "Aaron, do you know you're married? We shouldn't be like this anymore." Aaron paused, straightened up, his expression somewhat subdued. "Regardless of whether I'm married or not, Camille, you are the most important person to me, always. The most important person, forever, without the entanglement of blood or law." In the world of adults, these two words should not be placed side by side. I looked up at Aaron's tall figure, his smiling eyes and brows, suddenly not wanting to pretend to be ignorant with him anymore. I asked him, "Aaron, do you know that I like you?" Chapter 17. Aaron knew. Of course he knew. I'm not a good actress. I can't hide my emotions. I can't conceal my grand love. They were displayed vividly in every move, every glance, and unfinished tone, even in a moment of hesitation. He knew, but never responded. Aaron's hand unconsciously clenched into a fist. He opened his mouth but didn't speak. I looked at him and softly said, "Since you know, Aaron, please don't appear in front of me again. Give me some time. Let me rest well. Forget my feelings for you, can you?" Chapter 18. Aaron left on the deserted St. Only the wind carrying the scent of roses and the noise of children remained. A metallic taste rose in my throat, the familiar smell of blood flooding in, gradually bringing me back to reality, feeling the presence of my limbs and veins. I lied to Aaron. I didn't want to forget my feelings for him. My admiration for him was the only thing that made me feel alive in this strange world. It helped my life, making me feel at least somewhat human. Not just a monster created by code, existing only for a mission. Waiting for the metallic taste in my throat to go down, I leaned against the wall, slowly stood up, and walked back to the bar. Chapter 19. 2 days till death countdown. In the early morning, I squatted in the sea of roses, wrapped in a coat, digging the soil with force. A tap on the head. It was the son of the bar owner. Innocent and clear, with sun-darkened skin, revealing a set of white teeth when he smiled. At such an ambiguous and innocent age, I didn't want to cause any psychological shadows for him. Dropping the shovel, I struggled to stand up, took 3 steps back, and asked him expressionlessly, "What's up?" He seemed a bit unsure, extending his arm, revealing a steaming bun. "Since you're up early and haven't eaten breakfast, I bought this for you." "Thank you." I smiled and declined. "But I don't need it. Eat a little. Not eating isn't good for your health. I have someone I really like," I told him. "I will never like anyone else in this lifetime." Bending down to pick a rose, quietly removing the thorns, I softly said, "Stay away from me. It's better for both of us." The young man fled quickly, his eyes filled with brokenness and sadness. The bun was thrown on the ground, still hot, infused with the scent of roses. I picked it up, gazed at it quietly for a moment, raised my hand, and threw it in the trash. Chapter 20. Wrapped in my coat, I returned to the bar. As soon as I entered, I felt that something was off in the atmosphere. The loud voice of the landlady was gone. The clinking of dishes and glasses being washed disappeared. Everyone was silent, timidly looking towards the culprit at the bar, fiddling with a blue cocktail. Aaron. And next to him, Wayne, looking nervous. I hesitated, walked over, and asked in confusion, "How did you guys get here?" Aaron looked up and smiled at me. "Camille," Wayne said, "you don't plan on going back?" His voice was gentle, yet it sent chills down my spine. I shivered. The surroundings were too quiet, making me feel anxious. I adjusted my coat and said, "Let's talk in the room, not here." Chapter 21. In the small, shabby room, the walls were covered in moss, and the air was filled with the smell of decay and rot. Aaron sat on the single bed, looked around, and lightly tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Not going back, staying here from now on." I handed him a disposable cup, saying, "It's fine. It's habitable." Aaron chuckled, didn't speak, but his attitude was clear. He seemed irritable now, losing his composure and manners, not hiding his disdain and annoyance in his words. Taking a deep breath, he asked me seriously, "Why aren't you going back?" "Don't want to go back." Holding the paper cup, I said, "After working for so many years, I want to relax. I can give you a break." Aaron restrained his anger. "Camille, the Reynolds family is something we built together. You can't just leave like this." He spoke earnestly and focused, as if genuinely advising me not to leave. But I felt powerless. Do I have to remove my last layer of dignity for him to be satisfied? I looked up at him. "Aaron, let me stay. Watch you be affectionate with your wife." I didn't. I cut him off. "I'm telling you, I can't do it. And your wife won't allow me to stay by your side. Let me go, Aaron. It's better for both of us. Let me quietly die in the sea of roses, smelling the strongest scent, ending my unwelcome life." Chapter 22. Aaron fell silent. After a while, he straightened up, reached out, and touched my head with a hint of helplessness in his tone. "Camille, you are the most important person in my life. Just ask, and I'll give you anything." 10 years, a lifetime? How many 10 years can one have? All these grandiose words were condemning my heartlessness and betrayal, placing himself in a very low position, earning all the pity. Indeed, it was Aaron who became famous by defeating 3 giants with just his eloquence at the bidding meeting. I looked up, moving from his clear jawline to his slender profile, and finally to those eyes filled with autumn water. He was gazing at me, affectionate. I felt absurd. I leaned closer, asking him slowly and deliberately, "Aaron, what does going back mean? What does staying by your side mean? Don't you really understand? You clearly know that I like you. You also know that as your secretary for 10 years, my position would be awkward after you got married. Yet right now, you pretend not to see, not to understand, blindly accusing me of being heartless. An almost absurd thought emerged in my mind. He knows everything. He's just pretending to be ignorant, unwilling to give up the benefits of the marriage alliance, yet not wanting to let go of the tender affection I give him. He's waiting for me to willingly embrace him, betraying morals and conscience, kneeling at his feet. I stared into his eyes and softly asked, "Aaron, if you want me to stay by your side forever, in what capacity? A sister with no blood relation, a secretary closer than a wife, or a secret lover who can't see the light of day?" His face went pale for a moment, panic creeping into his usually calm eyes. He really thought that way. He really wasn't as noble as I thought. I let out a low laugh. With all my might, I raised my hand and slapped him, watching his body slant, pretending to be innocent, blood overflowing from his throat, a mix of extreme disgust and sadness. I wiped the blood from my lips, stared at him, and coldly spoke. "Wanting it all, Aaron, you're truly disgusting." Chapter 23. Aaron hung his head, not speaking for a long time. After a while, he spoke softly.
"I'm sorry.
I didn't mean for you to become a lover. But I can't deny, when considering what role you would have if you stayed by my side forever, I really did think that way. I apologize for such despicable thoughts. But Camille, my desire to keep your heart is genuine. You are the most important person in my life, forever." I closed my eyes and let out a bitter laugh. "Aaron, do you think that no matter what you do, I will never leave? That I will always willingly follow you, being a selfless shadow?" He never considered, when agreeing to the marriage alliance, that I would be so determined to leave. Perhaps knowing that I would be upset, but hiding away to cry a little, he would come and comfort me, ensuring that nothing unexpected would happen. Because I am forever steadfast, so there's no need to worry. This is truly quite laughable. Aaron couldn't deny it, just softly said, "In these 10 years, I've faced a lot of betrayals. They all used me as a stepping stone and sided with others. Only you, from beginning to end, have always been by my side. Before the engagement, I didn't know that you would care so much about this marriage, even to the point of leaving because of it. Camille, if canceling the engagement can make you stay, I can do it at any time." Only when he realized that I truly wanted to leave would Aaron try to remedy the situation. Quietly using negotiation skills, he observed my expression without a word, pondering on how to achieve his goals while maximizing his benefits. Growing up in an orphanage, lacking basic moral education, perhaps he still couldn't understand until now. Why would a marriage without emotional foundation, a red book bound only by the law, make me so determined to leave? I smirked. Chapter 24. Aaron suddenly reached out, grabbing my wrist. Ignoring my struggles, he pushed up my sleeve, revealing the scars on my elbow. The once ferocious wound that cut to the bone, now only a thin line remained. Caressing it with his fingertips, he softly said, "Camille, from this position, I have countless ways to keep you here. Threats, imprisonment, even intimidation. You care about too many people, too many things. I just need to grasp onto one, and you will never break free, but I don't want to do that touching the scar on my elbow." His expression softened. "When you took that blow for me back then, I swore I would never let anyone bully you again, nor can I." His dark eyes locked onto mine, his voice soft but unwavering. "So, Camille, I have one last question for you. Are you willing to come with me?" I stared at him, from his lips to his nose bridge, then to his eyes, filled with anticipation. Aaron's eyes were beautiful, slightly curved at the corners, always watery, with 1,000 emotions, beguiling. The moment I saw him, I was drawn to his eyes, and then fell into the abyss. It wasn't until now that I understood. Aaron, a cold-blooded capitalist, had no place worth loving. I leaned in, telling him slowly and deliberately, "I'm not willing." Chapter 25. It's been a long time since I took a blow for Aaron. He had just turned 20, with a hint of youthful vigor. That day, we agreed on a contract and were excited to celebrate. On the bustling street, his brother brazenly sent people to knock us out and throw us into a dark, secluded alley. Guarded by 4 greasy strongmen, They received orders to ruin me and chop off one of Aaron's hands. It was a stormy night. The hooligans angrily dragged me by my hair and pressed me into the water. My consciousness gradually blurred, a thin mist clouding my vision. The pain and despair almost killed me, until I saw the chilling blade. With almost no hesitation, I struggled and leaped forward, taking that blow for Aaron. Sirens blared, and we were saved.